Hi, my name is Ashley Sims and I'm going to be doing a PowerPoint presentation over Australia. Let's go to Australia. First off, I'd like to give you a little information about the main imports and exports. The main exports are coal, meat, and mint products, wheat. China is the leading export at 22%, Japan at 19%, South Korea at 8%, and India at 8% as well. The main imports are intermediate and other goods, consumption goods, and capital goods. Again, China is the lead at 20%, USA at 12%, Japan at 9%, and Singapore at 6%. In America, we have the US dollar. As well in Australia, they have a very similar Australian dollar. As you can see to the pictures that I have given to you, it's a very similar exchange rate. After doing some research, I found a hotel and flight package for Australia at $5,479.91. Australia is a very multilingual nation with over 100 languages being spoken. However, English is the official and most commonly spoken language. Australians tend to put directness before diplomacy, and they therefore can be considered quite blunt at times. Directness is cherished in Australia, and failure to say what you mean and mean what you say can be mistaken for evasiveness and even hypocrisy. It is important to not be too self-promotional when presenting in Australia. A hard self-approach can often be misconstrued as bragging and can provoke a very negative response. Remember that people do not like to make out that they are better than others. A factual description of issues will be far better received than a more hyperbolic approach. Australia is one of the very few cultures in which humor is pervasive in business situations. Not only is humor acceptable in all situations, it is expected in all situations. Never underestimate an Australian senior manager because he or she uses humor at what you might feel to be an inappropriate time. Punctuality is considered a virtue in Australia, but most meetings start 5 to 10 minutes late. It is also customary to go through a few minutes of small talk before getting down to the key issues of the meeting. Sports is a very common theme during these discussions. Australia is classified as a swift-playing culture, which means that relatively little preparation is done before meetings, meaning that often viewed the forum for an open debate as necessary, and that when the open debate is brought forward will be done. When a route forward is agreed upon in the meeting, then a detailed work schedule will be implemented for completion after the meeting. Being over-prepared for meetings can result in certain negative plans which failure to task is certain decisions, as they can be seen as trying to be direct and force their ideas on other people. Managers are not expected to see themselves as in any way superior to their colleagues. Therefore, an authoritarian style of management will be received very badly by most Australians, and such an approach may provoke outright hostility. It is much better to adapt a consultative style of management, which is inclusive of every person's opinions and which encourages an open debate of ideas. In fact, challenging the ideas of the boss in an open meeting is not seen as rude or disrespectful, but the sign of a fully committed professional approach. Pragmatism is seen as a key attribute. Getting the job completed quickly is more important than necessity of protocol or hierarchy. In keeping with Australian direct style of communication, debates between senior and junior executives may appear from the outside as confrontational. However, they rarely are. This style of interaction is merely viewed as the most effective way of attaining the end goal. Australian managers are not to remain aloof from members of their team. They usually want to be one of the boys and seen as a good bloke. The idea of managers socializing with other managers would be viewed as effective and would likely result in alienation. In corporate Australia, standard business dress is still very much the norm.
Dark suits and ties are the standard dress for management level businessmen and women, with women wearing business suits with either skirts or trousers. Remember that for much of the year, Australia is a very hot country. So make sure that your clothing is
lightweight and cool during these periods. Try to avoid excessive jewelry and accessories which may be viewed as too flashy and therefore unprofessional. Let's talk about women in business in Australia. Women currently make up a large percentage of the workforce, but as in many other countries, are often found in lower paid and part-time jobs. However, progress is being made. Statistics will show that women are still paid comparatively less for doing the same job as a man. On the other hand, women have made more progress in attaining managerial positions than in many other leading industrialized nations, and more women are reaching the highest level of Australian organizations. Foreign businesswomen visiting Australia should encounter little, if any, overt gender biasism. A key Australian characteristic would be egalitarianism. It's very important that people do not give the impression that they think they are somebody. It is much better to be seen as a good bloke or a good mate than someone who is overtly proud of themselves and their achievements. Little attention is paid to titles and rankings within organizations, with statuses being ascribed through achievement rather than organizational position. You are only as good as your last decision or action. Thus, any international organization looking to set up operation in the country would be well advised against introducing a mirror of hierarchy structure they may employ in the country of origin. Similarly, do not be too surprised if an Australian business contexts seem willfully disrespectful of hierarchy when working internationally. They're not being rude, merely acting as a consistent Australian manner. Australians like their personal space. Generally, an arm's length is a good distance to converse with someone. Australia is generally a relaxed, informal society. It is customary to shake hands with those you meet and greet them with a formal greeting of good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. There's no great tradition for business entertaining in Australia, and it is certainly shouldn't be viewed as a quick way to cement relationships with a new client or contact. You are more likely to be asked out for lunch or dinner once a firm relationship has been established. In this way, the meal can in no way be seen as an influence of a business decision. People will often go Dutch over meal, meaning the bill will be split equally amongst those present at the meal. If you wish to pay, and fancy Christmas dinners are very popular. And due to the fact that Christmas falls during summer, and so many parts of Australia can be hot during Christmas, Australians often seek alternatives to hot Christmas dinners. Barbecued meats are very popular, along with cold salads and cold desserts. Outdoor entertaining is very popular, and many families celebrate Christmas on beaches and in parks or outdoors at home. Many attend Christmas Eve or morning church services. Increasingly, towns and suburbs are lit with colored lights, and people vie with each other to have the biggest or most spectacular display. Touring the Christmas lights is become a increasingly popular evening activity just before Christmas. Gift giving is high on the list. It is something as an accoutremanism to see Father Christmas, aka Santa Claus, in his thick red suit in a shopping center when it can be sweltering hot outside. Outdoors displays of nativity scenes, besides having some traditional figures, often feature Australians' native animals, particularly kangaroos and koalas. Here are some statistics. About 13 million Australians call themselves Christian. However, only about 7.5% attend any church service weekly. The main denomination continued to decline slowly, while 19% of Australians claim no religion. Buddhism, Islam, Hinduism, and other religions are still minorities, but have also grown due to increased immigration from the Asian region. This is information about a taxi. When taximeters are started, the distance rate, time rate, late night surcharge, book fee, melt at the Melbourne Airport, and Christmas and New Year's Eve prices. And the Australian gas price is $5.41 per gallon. If you're a visitor and you hold a valid driver's license in English from your own country, you're allowed to drive throughout all of Australia. In Australia, you drive on the left side of the road, and that means if you turn left or right, you must remember to go as you complete your turn into the left-hand side of the road as you're turning into, instead of the right as you're used to doing. If you don't forget, the driver's side of the car is on the right side. The thing you see from the front of you is not called a windshield. It's a windscreen. And you don't put your luggage in the trunk, you put it in the boot. And you don't fill up with gas, go for petrol instead. These are some of the Australian road signs. No standing. It means you can't stop in the area indicated except to let a passenger get out or in a vehicle, and you cannot park there. No stopping, except for an event of a medical emergency. No parking, just when it meets. And a bus zone is to leave for the buses. Tollways, you have to have some change to go through the toll gates. You can park off-street. You can park at any car park or parking station. You can park where there are parking meters, so long as you feed them. Driving in Australia, rules to remember. Don't beep your horn unless you're in a situation where you need to warn other drivers. Be aware of your speed. Don't drink and drive. And seatbelts must be worn by drivers and passengers at all times. Some of the gestures in Australia that can be considered rude or inappropriate that you may need to know about when you're traveling to Australia are the thumbs up. In Australia, the thumbs up is considered a rude gesture, having a meaning similar to that of the raised middle finger. In Australia, winking is considered too suggestive. In Australia, placing a glass squarely on the bar is a gesture saying that a person may want to fight. And the peace sign with the palm facing inward is a very vulgar gesture. It's not customary to exchange business gifts during the initial meeting. When invited to an Australian home, bring a small gift like flowers or chocolates or books about your home country. Australia is a southern hemisphere, so the seasons are the opposite that of the northern hemisphere. So the warmest months are December, January, and February. Food to fear. Witchery grubs, the most authentic of brush tucker. The grub is a nutty flavored bite that has been enjoyed by indigenous Australians for thousands of years. Emu, which is a large bird, crocodiles, and grilled kangaroo. Things to know. If you're traveling to Australia and have been in an area that has possible yellow fever, a certificate of yellow fever vaccination is required from travelers. If you've been there for 6 days of having stayed overnight or longer in a country with risk of yellow fever. And the people of Australia are very friendly. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you.